Awesome.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Of course. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah.
I won't keep you too long, but your last interview was with me, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah. Great.
I appreciate you retweeting me the other day. I did not think this would
Yeah.
happen. That's so
You
funny.
want to talk about Duff, right?
Well, I want to talk up to you about a lot of other things. You know what's so funny? Because I've done these. It's Appetite for Distortion, Guns N' Roses themed podcast. I don't know if you can tell by my background here.
Yeah, totally.
But this morning I was at Q1043 in Tribeca, doing the morning show there. So I'm just bouncing around doing all different things for iHeart and Premier Radio Networks. One of the things I do are these radio tours. So I've heard you do what? Between Monday and today, 15, 20 interviews, right? You
could essentially be the interviewer and the interviewee without me.
I know your answers, so I know what to ask, what not to ask. I was telling my wife, I think it's so funny that every single person, and I don't blame them, brings up Daisy Fuentes, that I get it, but it bothers me that nobody has asked this. And I guess this makes sense because it's more of a rock and roll theme.
Okay.
Because your new album, Songwriter, I wanted you to talk more about it because you have rock songs on there, especially with the late and great Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah.
So if you can tell me about that song in particular and just about the rock songs on the album, because you have a rock background.
Yeah, I there you go. I started at rock radio.
Mm-hmm.
My first hit, my first pop hit, Don't Mean Nothing, was a #1, what they called AOR track, an album-oriented rock. So yes, my background, I started at rock radio. I didn't ever really sort of leave rock radio. Rock radio sort of left me, which I get. I had a couple of ballad hits and rock radio was like, fuck you, we're done. They broke up with me. It didn't stop me from continuing to do it. There's some tracks on the third album, on the Rush Street album. Tommy Lee played drums on one song that's probably the hardest song I've ever recorded, called Streets of Pain. And that was really cool. It was just a power trio of Tommy Lee on drums, Randy Jackson, American Idol Randy Jackson on bass, and Steve Lukather from Toto.
Oh, sure. He's been on the show.
So you want to talk about Shame on You? You want to how that all came about?
Well, now that you mentioned, and again, because I know you're exhausted and I don't want to keep you selfish.
No, it's okay.
But the Tommy Lee thing, I'm just curious because.
So the Tommy Lee thing was really cool because I was invited, my ex and I were invited. So this would have been 91, early 91, or like towards the end of 1990. I was finally off the road and I was starting to record the Rush Street album, the third album. And we got invited to a LA Kings game.
Okay.
And they put us in one of those boxes, the celebrity boxes, whatever, right? So we're there and we take in our seats, and sitting right next to us were Heather Locklear and Tommy Lee. And Heather and I had met a couple times before. So we were like, hey, how are you? And introducing her to my ex. And Tommy and I had never met before. And he was immediately like, he wasn't like, hey, what's up? He was like, hey, man, hey, it's so good to meet you. And he was really friendly. And we talked the entire game and we just sort of hit it off. And he said, so what are you up to? And I said, I'm starting a new record. And I said, I've actually got this song that it would be so awesome for you if you played drums on it. And he was like, really? I said, yeah, it's pretty heavy. And he was like, dude, like, I would love that. And I said, really? I said, there's no pressure. Like, he goes, no, I'd love to play something on you. He goes, nobody ever asked me to play on somebody else's record.
I hear his voice when you're doing it. That's so funny.
Fuck yeah, man. Like, so it was like 2 weeks later, he shows up at the studio and I just taught the three guys, the parts and the ideas. And Lukather immediately took my stupid guitar riff idea and turned it into like a amazing thing. And Luke and I had a shorthand when we worked together a lot. And Tommy did the take in like maybe 3 or 4 takes tops. Like he just had it. And it required a certain groove that was a little different for him. But it was still really heavy. And I remember the most vivid memory I have of that day was when we were listening to the final playback. Tommy started running around the control room. He was so happy. He loved it. He loved what it sounded like so much. And I remember he came up and he grabbed me by the shoulders and he was like, dude, this sounds fucking amazing. This is so fun. He was like, just like a big kid.
Oh, I love it. Because it's interesting getting to almost quote unquote know you during just listening to you tell your stories.
Yeah.
And because growing up, I'm slightly older than your son, Brandon.
Yeah.
You said he's 32. I just turned 39. So there's kinship there. And Tommy Lee is a kid named Brandon. It's a good name. It's a good name.
Yeah.
That people might not think, because I grew up right here waiting. I wouldn't think of Richard Marx being in this rock and roll world. And then listening to you, you have such a rock and roll attitude. Obviously, the attitude on social media, I would label as a rock and roll attitude.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to make sure that the rock gets highlighted, because on the new album, there's a lot of different genres on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to talk to you about the Taylor Hawkins contribution and how that came about.
Well, I wanted to write with my youngest son, Jesse. You should definitely check out his EP, which is Mark This Hour. It's under the band name Mark This Hour.
Okay.
It's sort of like, I always hate comparisons, but I think he would agree that it's sort of like, it's a little Breaking Benjamin, but it's his own thing. Like his voice is very unique and his melodies are incredible. He's a great singer. He plays every instrument, programmed the drums. He's a really great drummer, but he programmed the drums and plays every note of every sound you hear and produced it himself. This guy, Ben Gross, who's a legendary rock mixer, mixed it. So I said to Jesse, I'm doing a very concentrated several songs that are rock songs on this next album. I think it's the perfect opportunity for us to try to collaborate together. Now, he's never written with anybody. He's always written his own stuff himself.
Okay.
And so I said, look, there's no downside. Like, if we don't come up with anything, we tried and it just didn't gel. No big deal. So he says, yeah, come over and we'll see what we can come up with. So we wrote the last track on the rock EP, which is called We Are Not Alone. And that we wrote is sort of like this rock anthem. And we wanted to write an uplifting message and sort of touch a little bit on mental illness and feeling outcast and feeling alone and feeling, so we did that. And then I had the chorus idea in my head for Shame on You. It was just a piece of music at the time, but I showed it to Jesse, and then he wrote the verses with me, and we put the whole track together. And I just knew that it was really special. And then I went off and wrote these lyrics that really address the fake news, the people in the media on both sides, really, but particularly the Fox News, Tucker Carlson's of the world, who I think are just evil and pathological liars. And so it was a good release for me to write that lyric. So then Jesse kind of put the rest of the track together, sang the background vocals, and we were about to mix it. And I said, look, man, the drums sound fucking great to me, but what if we could get our favorite drummer in the world to play on this? Because I said, I could hear Taylor playing on this. He goes, you would ask Taylor? And I said, yeah, the worst he's going to say is no. Like, I knew Taylor enough that I could say to him, don't do this as a favor to me because we like each other. Only do it if you like the song, because it won't hurt my feelings. If, like, you go, man, I wish you the best, I'm not feeling this one. It's no problem.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, okay, that's fair enough. He goes, can you send me the track? So I sent it to him, and like 5 minutes later, he called me back. He goes, I'm so in. I fucking love this song. He goes, this is going to be a blast. He said, well, just do it at my house. Come over to my house. So he said, you and Jesse come over next Thursday, whatever it was. This is beginning of the year. We went over and spent the afternoon there. Again, same thing. He did it in 2 takes or 3 takes or whatever. But we spent the whole afternoon with him. And he was so... Did you ever get to meet him?
It's so funny. I met Taylor Hawkins once. I'll keep it brief. It's really funny. I used to work at Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And so I'm handicapped. I have a little handicap tattoo right here. I walk with a cane. And this was actually when I started walking with the cane. And it was in the bathroom. I know this is going to sound like weird. Like, it's like, what story starts in the bathroom? So it's like kind of early-ish in my career. I'm like, am I ever going to get on the air? Like, this sucks. I see the Foo Fighters are there. I'm working for the Catholic channel. I'm Jewish, working for the Catholic channel. Vent out all this frustration, go to the bathroom, wash my hands. The corner of my eye, I see Taylor Hawkins walk out. And I'm sorry, I got to be weird. I'm like, I'm going to time out walking out at the same time. And he sees me with my cane and he's like, no, after you. I'm like, no, after you. You're Taylor from the Foo Fighters. And we had a brief conversation because I happened to be wearing a similar shirt that Dave Grohl wore in the Times Like These videos.
Yeah.
The sounds.
Yeah.
So he starts talking to me about the sounds for a few minutes. And so, yeah, my one time meeting Taylor was kind of in the bathroom and he held the door open for me because that was very nice. So,
Well, I mean, you're
not as cool as your story.
No, but I'm saying, but your one time meeting him was experiencing his grace. He was just gracious.
Oh, yeah. And in the awkwardness, that's kind of the point. Like, it stuck with me. He could have been a diva and like didn't say nothing. You know,
Yeah.
Hey, just because I'm handicapped doesn't mean people hold the door open for me. Like,
Of course.
So
Of course.
He was really cool and spent a few minutes. The Foo Fighters were giving an interview. He was in the bathroom. He's like, let me give a few more minutes to this kid to talk to him. And so,
Yeah.
the one moment was
That was
cool.
him. Like, and from the minute I met him, I only met him maybe like, well, I only met Dave. I met Taylor through Dave, but I only met Dave like maybe 8 years ago at a dinner party, and we immediately hit it off and talk all the time, and we hang out, and then he invited me down to the studio 606. They were rehearsing for a gig or for a tour or something, and I met all the guys. And Taylor immediately, like, when I met Taylor, when he walked in and I reached my hand out to shake his hand, he slapped my hand away and hugged me. He was like, dude, this is so cool to meet you. And like, I was like, wow. I was such a fan, you know, I'm a fan of the band, but really of Taylor's, like, serious fan of Taylor's. So, you know, the other little anecdote, I guess, or button on the story is the night after he played drums on Shame on You, Daisy and I went to dinner with Katie Couric and her husband.
Okay, I've met her.
Katie and I have been friendly for a while, but she married a guy I went to school with, so I've known him my whole life. They came to LA to visit. We took them to a restaurant in Malibu for dinner. We walk into the restaurant and there's Taylor and Allison at the bar waiting for their table. And we look at each other like, are you fucking kidding? Because Taylor and I ran into each other in restaurants a lot. It was weird. So we're like, of course I'm running into you the day after I'd been to his house, right? So I introduce everybody and Taylor's like, oh, Katie, so nice to meet you. And Katie says, and I got my arm around him. I'm hugging him. And Katie said, I didn't know you guys were friends. And Taylor, without missing a beat, said, it's even better. We're friends who make music together. And I think about that all the time now. That's what I'm going to always remember. Because it was like a month later he died. And I'm still a little like numb. Like, I just can't quite believe it, you know?
Yeah, and you're someone who knew, and I speak just for the fan base, and having met him once, it's, numb, and it's interesting. And it's a perfect segue into everything. Yeah, the theme of my podcast is GN'R, but I talk about mental health a lot, addiction. I haven't had a drink in 7 years.
Good for you, man.
Thank you. I mean, I still have other issues, but I mean, you know, I'm here talking to Richard Marx, so things are pretty good. But it leads into, well, first I want to mention real quickly, because Katie Couric, because I met her once, and it's also funny. I was setting her up to, like, and she came in to do what you're doing. This was just in studio to do interviews, and she's like, where do you want me as far as where the microphones go? Like, wherever you're comfortable, you know, I'll take you wherever you want to be. And there was just an awkward pause, and she goes, I'm not going to say anything because that sounded really sexual. And I don't know, it was awkward and funny. We both laughed.
But that's so her.
I know. I liked it. She's like, and she, you know, knock on wood, she just had a recent breast cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, she's good. I'm in touch. She's
beautiful
good.
older woman. So I was flattered. So
they caught it early, so she's fine.
Good. But it segues into a conversation you had. I'm using now my 6 degrees of Guns N' Roses bacon, what I call it.
Right.
with Duff McKagan at the beginning of the pandemic, where you talked so much about mental health and being creative. And it was a couple interesting things that you said in the interview that you just said now, that initially you weren't creative at the beginning of the pandemic. You're telling that to Duff. You're like, I've never felt this way before.
Mhm.
And you also said something like to Duff, like how you met Taylor. You always run into him in restaurants. So we always got to hang out, but you never hang out. So I
Right.
guess, how did that interview happen? I guess, how did you think to reach out to Duff? And have you hung out since?
We've still never hung out.
Ah,
We actually did hang out once when we met each other. We were introduced by a mutual friend of ours named Trey Bruce, who's a great songwriter in Nashville. And Trey came out to LA to work with Duff and said, you and Duff need to meet each other because you're going to be friends. And so we all met. This is probably 10 years ago.
okay.
We met up at a sushi restaurant and we immediately hit it off. Like, I just immediately liked him. He was so easy to be around, and we just had fun. And then I would run into him on planes. Twice I ran into him on a plane. So we email each other a lot. We text each other about, we got to get together. We got to get our wives together. When the pandemic happened and I started to do that YouTube show, interviews with people, I asked him, I said, is this interesting to you? And he said, absolutely, let's do it. So we did that, but then he returned, like, not only returned the favor, but additionally, he moderated, when my book came out a year ago, he moderated an online interview with me about my book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he interviewed me about my book.
Oh, okay.
It was amazing. And I loved his book. I don't know if you've read his book, but like, he's got 2 books actually, but his memoir is really, really good.
How to Be a Man?
Yeah. No, the other one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The other one.
Gotcha.
Anyway, he's just a kind, smart, soulful dude. And it's just, the only reason we haven't hung out is just because of schedules and stuff like that.
I gotcha. Well, I'll just ask you this, speaking of schedules, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but as somebody who almost in the same time period as Guns N' Roses, but obviously a different end of the spectrum, what did you think of Appetite for Destruction when it came out? What did you think of Guns N' Roses when they came out?
To be honest with you, I wasn't a Guns guy. I wasn't into that stuff as much at that time. The difference, the timing is somewhat similar. Like, the difference for me between GN'R and Soundgarden, for example,
Okay.
which I was into, was the difference between how Axl's voice hit my ears versus Chris.
Okay.
For me, it was like, when I heard Chris, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, that blew, like, his voice just blew my mind. And just like the people who love GN'R and they love Axl, same thing. They had this, like, sort of visceral reaction to his voice, like, and it just wasn't that for me. It
Okay.
was, but then I certainly have great respect for, the songwriting, and as a band, they're like a really great band, like really great band. It just wasn't my thing, I really like a lot of Duff solo stuff, and, but yeah, I wasn't in the GNR world. I was
Yeah,
much more
Me
into.
neither. Me neither. Don't look. Don't
No,
look.
I know.
I'm taking everything down. I'm going to do a Richard Marx podcast next. It's going to be.
No, I totally get it.
And that's totally fine. That doesn't matter. It's everything just meets here that 6 degrees of. And
No, you know who was a big GNR fan was Daisy.
Well,
She loved them.
if maybe if next time she comes out with a book or an album, she maybe make a song together. Next time, if I host her radio tour, maybe I'll sneak in there. And
There you go.
GNR question. Well, thank you, Richard Marx, for being such a great. What would I call it? I'm the tour producer. You're the touree.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being so kind Monday and today. So and giving me some extra time today.
My pleasure, Brandon. Anytime.
I don't think I said the name of the episode. I guess it went right into it. Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 370. That was the great Richard Marx. I'm continuously amazed of the Guns N' Roses connections that we find. I mean, come on, right here waiting. Never would have in my lifetime, not in this lifetime, would I ever think I would speak to Richard Marx. Like, he's just like, why? I guess. I mean, he seems like a really cool guy. The last few years, he's definitely become more popular because of social media. Because he seems to have he does have a really funny personality and attitude. So yeah, I mean, and also those adult contemporary songs, they rock, man. That's why Tommy Lee was excited to work with him. So it's just a different side of things. But just have the opportunity, because I'm just listening all Monday. I'm like, he just seems like a really cool guy that I would want to talk to. Let's see if he has a Guns N' Roses connection. So I can start Googling. That's usually what I do. I just type in Richard Marx, Guns N' Roses, and just see what comes up. And that's when that Duff interview came up. I may have saw when it first happened. It was like April 2020. Early on, that was the one I was talking to him about when the pandemic first started. That I forgot about it. I don't remember it. You know, certainly, I guess, why would I remember a random Richard Marx Duff McKagan interview? Now I know why I should have remembered it. But just very cool, and who knows? Maybe in the future we'll get Desi Fuentes on the air. I was certainly thinking about it. I was looking to see if she had interviewed any of the Guns N' Roses members, just in case if she was lurking in the background, you know, that I can just get in a quick question with her. And I was telling the truth. It's just I was, to my wife, it's just so funny. Every single station we went to wants to talk to him about Desi Fuentes. I mean, man, that guy wins in life, doesn't he? Jeez, I said to my wife, I was like, I love you, honey, but Desi Fuentes, my goodness. So congratulations, Richard Marx. And by the way, not only marrying Desi Fuentes, his new album is out now. Okay, so I think it's worth it. I mean, the guy is still killing it. He's killing it. Awesome. And it's totally cool. I really enjoyed his perspective, because I'm like, oh, if I ever get to interview him again, maybe I'll talk to him about, you know, as a singer-songwriter, what does he think of Axl Rose? And he kind of gave that answer. So that's very interesting, his response to, because I get it. Art from Everclear said the same thing, something similar when he was on the podcast. Just Axl's voice isn't for him, and that's okay. I'm not going to take offense to that. It's, you know, it's music. They're bands. It's not a big deal. It's not insulting my family. It's not a big deal. Oh, man. So what is to come on the podcast? Well, I will say we were going to record, and we still will. We still are, Doug Goldstein and I, an episode dedicated to his book, answering your questions. Many of you have sent in great questions already to the afdshow@gmail.com. And it could be anything of just a generic question, a Guns N' Roses question you have, and that would make for a great subject. Maybe we've covered it already, but we still want you to reach out. Or perhaps something you read in Duff's book, or Slash's book, or Craig Duswalt's book, something you're like, is that true? Did that really happen? Or maybe you just want, you know what about this story? Can you tell me your perspective on this story? Because he's going to tell you Doug's going to tell you his perspective on the St. Louis riot, right? That story's been told, but not through his eyes. And by the way, I guess this could go under shotgun news. I don't have one of these days I'll get the proper setup again. While I have all the sound bites. I'll bring them back one of these days. But I'll give a shout out to Matt Wake, our buddy Matt Wake from AL.com. And he retweeted this link. Somebody is selling a chair from the Riverport riot. Right now, it's going for $100. You can check it out. I retweeted the link. And the caption reads this: chair from the Riverport Amphitheater, Guns N' Roses 1991 Riverport riot. I was in the audience at the GN'R concert that ended the infamous band. It started the infamous band of GN'R in St. Louis in 1991. A friend grabbed the chair during the mayhem on the way out and put it in my car. I've held on to this piece of history for 31 years. The wife said it's time for it to find a new home. Oh, man, I love the honesty in this. I get it. Wife says it's got to go. It's got to go. I'm auctioning the chair as well as the original ticket stub. Okay, so if you want a Riverport Riot chair and the ticket stub, right now you can get it for $100. However, I will say, Doug Goldstein is considering bidding on this. How funny would that be if Doug owns one of the Riverport Riot chairs? Maybe a chair that was used to was thrown at him. Man, I can't wait because there is going to be an upcoming episode again where Doug and I talk about the book. And I kid around with Doug. I call him, where in the world is Doug San Diego? Is Carmen Goldstein? And he likes to consider himself Waldo. Where's Waldo? Where's Duggo? So we're not always able to coordinate to sit down and do an episode or even have long chats about the book now. It's interesting. So it's a lot of me writing, thinking through Doug's mind. Having just spent a lot of time talking to him over the past few years on and off the podcast, now mostly off the podcast. What does he say about the story and adding my insight? Well, speaking through Doug, because it's his autobiography, but I got to add some stuff as the quote-unquote co-author. But the Riverport Riot, you're going to get the true story about it. You're also going to get stories that haven't been told before, so it's going to be really cool. I know I'm excited. I want to get it out, but there's so much to do. It's a big undertaking. It really is. But I'm happy with the progress that we've made, and I don't think it'll take as long as Chinese democracy, but it'll be out soon, as Axel famously said. And something else I want to talk about that is going to be out sooner is the User Illusion box set. I want to bring it up because I mentioned it last podcast. I want to elaborate a little bit. I do want to do a single episode on that at some point, most likely after the box set comes out. Thinking about doing, since I have a video aspect of the podcast now on YouTube, perhaps an unboxing. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a fan that is getting the $500 package, is getting the whole thing, the whole Megillah, and perhaps you want to unbox it on this podcast. It could be a cool idea. People do that, right? I have reached out to, I'll give him a shout out and a plug, Tim Tricoli, timtricoli.com. You may know the name because he's a big collector in the Guns N' Roses world. He contributed to the Appetite for Destruction box set. He was on the podcast a while ago. I talked to him about this box set because he contributed it again. He was one of those people that said, it's coming to all the doubters for the box set. I knew it was coming. It was just interesting because I know things fluctuate in schedules. I'm talking about Doug and I's schedule fluctuating, and we're not nearly as busy as Guns N' Roses are. So it was just funny. I put out a meme of, I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and you either get the reference or you don't, because I know I've heard everywhere. Where Newman was like, I'll tell you a little secret about zip codes. They're absolutely meaningless. So I was like, I did that with, I'll tell you a little something about Slash's comments about a summer release. They're absolutely meaningless. And I'm being silly. I'm not actually upset, or I'm just poking fun. But in Slash's defense, the box set was announced on the last day of summer. I forgot what day of September that was officially, but it was literally the last day of summer. So he was right. He was technically right that there was a release from Guns N' Roses this summer. I believe that's when the single came out that you can get out. Getting out the live. It's escaping me now. You Could Be Mine. I'm forgetting the 1991 live recording that's escaping me at the moment. But and I forget. I may have said this to Richard Marx. I've been awake since 3 a.m. It's currently 5 p.m. right now. Did the morning show this morning at Q1043 while they're in Cleveland at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm here in New York City, making sure they're on the air. Get back to my apartment. Doing this whole Richard Marx tour. I'm the last interview, so I'm running on fumes and excitement. And actually in between then, I had a nice long conversation with Doug about some stuff about the book. So I'm really balancing it all. I really am. So try to keep up.
because I can't. I could barely keep up. So in between the broadcasts, because again, upcoming episodes, I want to do an unboxing. Not going to happen yet, of course. Doug, when he comes back on by himself, and also want to do a Pyro Pete part 2. Want to do a Dr. Stephen Thaxton part 2. If you don't remember, he was the official User Illusion chiropractor. That was one of the best episodes. We want to do a part 2 of that. So we'll see what's to come. Okay. So again, stay tuned by following on social media, facebook.com/the AFD show, Twitter @the AFD broadcast, Instagram. And please, if you can, if you are on YouTube, hit a subscribe button. That really, I really appreciate that. So thanks. So until the next episode, when will you see it? Who will it be? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it, I don't know, as soon as the word.